Hello Internet. For those who don't know me, my name is Peter, and I have a channel about the Minecraft community on YouTube. I have already summarized the most famous Minecraft series in Brazil, Topcraft, In Search of the Automatic House, Forever Map. Incredible series that you should give a chance to watch the summaries after this video. But today is a great day, where I will summarize the entire QSMP series from the beginning to the current moment, telling all the details and Easter eggs and secrets of the series. This will be the most updated video in the world at the moment, and it's also being translated into English. Let me stop procrastinating and let's start this video.
Welcome to Isla Quesadilla.
Well, let's start with the basics. What is QSMP? QSMP is a Minecraft series. The name is basically an acronym for Quackity Survival Multiplayer. This means that the way this series works is through a multiplayer server. In the case of QSMP, the goal is to bring together the main Minecraft creators from around the world on the same server, with Brazilians, French, Spanish, Mexicans, and Americans on the same server. It is very likely that after this video more people from other countries will also join the series, which has a simultaneous translation system to help with communication between them and for the audience to follow mainly. In addition to playing survival mode, they also have an RP system, a role play that happens in Minecraft in a simpler way, and their story is shaped even with the limitations of the game. The most interesting thing about this is that metagaming is not allowed and most people don't know what the next steps in the story are, which makes their acting much better and the story much more natural to watch than if they already knew exactly what the story would be like. Despite this, it has already happened that a player had some privileged information, but these are rare cases. In this video I will explain to you all this history or lore behind the series, which even being a Minecraft series, manages to be deep and interesting, all this narrative, with characters, arcs and even villains. Something important to know about all this lore is the fact that it started 20 years ago, in a video posted by Quackity Studios. It is possible to see what appears to be a person watching a video about a place called Quesadilla Island, where after 20 years all the events that I will narrate here for you would have happened. There are several theories on the internet, including one of mine, where we could find possible answers to what this video means. However, in this video we prefer to work with facts rather than hypotheses, so I will leave it for another video to talk about these subjects. But it is at least interesting to know that even before the current events of QSMP, its story had already begun, with an important past there. After 20 years since the video I showed you, we have the first residents of the island, who before everything really started, meet in the server lobby and talk a lot among themselves, making a kind of presentation of where they were from or what they did. For example, all players had to go up and introduce themselves. It was a very fun and interesting moment to really start that giant project, but it didn't take long for things to really start. The first residents of the island arrived there on a kind of train. As you watch the video, you will notice that each different community arrived in different ways but always by vehicle. In this train, players were divided between Spanish and English speakers into two trains that traveled at the same speed and were adjacent. They were shown some videos about the island and what they should do from there. With the train finally arriving at the island's coast, players had to do a kind of challenge to get the two communities together. This also had all kinds of symbolism, as if they were breaking down the barriers between them that divide the various Minecraft communities and that would now be undone. These were the beginning of several regional and linguistic barriers between players. The first players were Wilbur, FitMC, Filza, Jaden, BadBoyHalo, Foolish, Dan, Slime, Luzo, Rubius, Mariana, Spreen, Missa, Royer, Vegeta e Maximos. On their arrival and their challenges were simple. They had to work together to get out of the train station, and they did. But the strangest thing happens afterwards. Okay, before anything else, let me introduce this character. This is the Duck, or manager. He works for the Federation, where his job is to inform about things on the island, but his main objectives are still a mystery. And what happened here was at least bizarre. The Duck appears and says that they should never break the wall by pressing a red button in the middle of it. Although this is very counterintuitive, of course the players went there and pressed the button. This caused the destruction of part of the wall, and then the Duck comes back. He seemed disappointed that the players had broken the wall and talked about the only rule they shouldn't break, saying that they could never leave the island. After this event, the series would really start and the players would play Minecraft normally from here on. This was by far the most developed part of the story so far, but what would happen next would change the server forever. I'm talking about the arrival of the eggs, which would forever change people's relationship with the island. The event that brought the eggs is full of mysteries, with a very mysterious video posted about it. In it, the duck seems to judge the players' constructions that they had made in the last few weeks. But the video starts with another very mysterious video, with a Morse code in the background and distorted audio. It was here that the mysteries of the island began to appear more directly. But the main part of this video, which was shown while players were playing normally, was the presentation of the egg system, where apparently all players one egg, forming pairs between Spanish and English speakers and bringing these two communities even closer together. These eggs have their own personality, can speak behind signs, and are as smart as a child. In fact, they are controlled by real people, mostly unknown. The parents' objective would be to take care of their respective eggs since they only had one life. If they die once, their parents will never have them back again. The eggs could also lose a life if their parents did not complete daily quests, which were simple things like giving different food to the egg or putting it to sleep. During the ducks video, there was also mention of a relationship between the eggs and an ancient dragon on the island that is not known for sure what it means or even if it is some kind of metaphor. The eggs were very fun. It was interesting, cool, and funny to see each player's reaction to their children in quotes, and their relationship over time would become stronger and stronger. The first eggs and their parents were Dapper, who would have one father who would be BadBoyHalo, Fit and Spreen would be Ramon's parents, Quackity from Thailand, Foolish and Vegeta would be Leonardo's parents, Slime Cycle and Mariana would be Joanna Felipa's parents, Filza and Missa would have Shayeen, and Jaden and Royer would be Bobby's parents. In each episode there were more and more memes and jokes between their parents and the eggs, but this led to several internal intrigues that I will tell you more about later. After the appearance of the eggs, the mysteries of the island began to become more frequent. There was a lot of information that they had that didn't lead to much. It was then that some players decided to join together to theorize things about the island. These players were initially Maximus, Foolish, and BadBoyHalo, and they created what they called Theory Brothers, which would be a very important organization for cataloging research on these island mysteries. From here on, the players had a greater sense of what was happening in Quesadilla, and cataloged as entities, some mysterious creatures that existed on the island. One of these creatures was a humanoid character with a friendly teddy bear skin, but very scary, that wandered around the island. His name is Osito Bimbo, better known as Cucurucho, who at the beginning of the server was much more frightening and feared by everyone, even seen as a kind of legend by many. Another mystery that also began to be investigated by the Theory Brothers were the codes, but we will leave them to focus on them later. Another very important discovery of the Theory Brothers was a kind of conspiracy on the island, which was called Federation, and if they had any connection with the entities, they were still only theories that would prove true in the future. It didn't take long for the first egg death to happen on the server, which was caused entirely accidentally by Mariana, who when putting her son to sleep did not realize that he was lying on the bed and ended up breaking it. By the rules that existed at the time, this decreed the death of Joanna Felipa, which made Slime walk desperately on the server trying to kill any and every egg he saw in front of him, hoping that if all the eggs died they would have to reset all the rules and thus be able to get their egg back. But he made the mistake of targeting first the strongest and smartest egg, Dapper, who manages to escape with Bad Boy, and in the end he couldn't kill any egg. But later on the server there would be a trial, judging Slime's and Mariana's actions, and whether they could have their egg back, and it ends up being granted and Joanna Flipa would be back, and the rules about bed deaths were changed. However, further on we would have the death of another egg, this time Tylan. While Quackity was away, Slime was taking care of her, and when they went exploring the world together Slime accidentally ended up killing Tylan, who was without armor. A few days later while exploring a dungeon Joanna Flopa dies again accidentally caused by Mariana, who accidentally ends up killing him. During these first few days we had the death of 3 eggs, Tylan, Joanna Felipa and Tramp, who ended up dying after their daily quests were not completed. With the death of 3 eggs there would be changes in the rules later on, making it so that for example eggs now had more than one life instead of one. All players would be invited to a wake for the 3 departed eggs. At this wake Cucurucho appears quite directly and takes Quackity to a secret room in the Federation where he now has 5 minutes with Tylan. This was granted since he couldn't even say goodbye. The same happens with Slime, who also has the right to 5 minutes with Joanna Felipa. The ceremony continues with a lot of craziness. After a few days some eggs even lose some lives like Bobby and Cheyenne, but none die, and the server is contained many times by a fear of parents losing their eggs or grieving, as was the case with Quackity, who never got over Tylan's death and even blames P. Wilbur for her death since he should have been there on egg donation day and also be Tylan's father. It was in this time of despair and mourning that a bizarre video was passed.
Leonardo. Status. Alive. Dapper. Status. Alive. says, alive, Bobby, says, alive, Jaya, says, alive, Ramon, says, alive, Dewey.
Another lesser-known entity in the series were the angel and the demon. In fact, it was because of the angel that Quackity and Slime were able to see their eggs for the last time. This angel and demon are controlled by Rubios, a player himself who has op access to the server and can grant wishes to players or hinder them in the case of the demon. He has appeared many times on the server, especially in the beginning of the series where he appeared more frequently. At that time it was very common for players to go to the famous Casualones, a strange place at least on the server that was also built around this time in our history near Vegeta's base. Jeg is another character in this story. After Joanna Flipa's death, Slime agrees with Quackity to turn into an egg and deceives everyone with the arrival of a new egg. Jeg after a while reveals himself to be Silmi, being the only egg with infinite lives. Finally, this arc ends with the disappearance of Luzo, who may be the key to creating a theory in QSMP since he is somehow connected to the codes, which as I have already told you, is a kind of entity that lives on the island with an aggressive personality and always focuses on killing eggs as in the most recent attack at the time that happened to Filsa. In Luzo's disappearance, it is possible to see several strange lives that he posted, as well as acting and speaking differently on the server for a few days. With his departure, he creates a kind of computer placed near his house where the Theory brothers later created a theory linking this computer to the codes. But all this attention to the series lore would have a break with the arrival of a new community. As I said before, QSMP is a worldwide Minecraft series, which means that sooner or later we would have the arrival of more communities, speakers of other languages. Brazil has a very large Minecraft community and even before their first live on the server, several players were speculated in the Brazilian community. But what arrived there were Selbit, Forever, Pack and Mike from Tasercraft, and Phelps. Their arrival, like the others, was also an event. The Brazilians arrived by boat that ended up sinking on the island. Upon arriving there they had to do a kind of challenge to finally get to the island. All the players who were already there introduced themselves. It was once again a wall being broken down, several communities of people from different countries coming together and talking. It was a very funny and crazy day with things like Forever hitting on Filza, Maximos distributing dubious things among a lot of things that happened. On this first day, QSMP also gained a new egg Brazovo, actually Richarlison, who would have the 5 Brazilians as his parents plus 1% of paternity that Selbit gave to Quackity after he was a little invincible with him. Richarlison ends up dying on this first day but has his death absolved for having been on the first day and the Brazilians were still getting used to the rules. After the arrival event, the Brazilians already build their bases on what they called Moro do Zir. Unfortunately, still in the beginning, Richarlison dies again while hunting with Mike. However, this death is not absolved, making the Brazilians create a protection plan for Richarlison known as Project Immortalison, which at first was just a joke but later became serious and made this egg very strong and protected. Such security would benefit everyone on the server, but we'll talk about that later. After a few weeks, the Brazilians gradually begin to discover the mysteries of the island. The people who did this the most were Selbit and Forever. Maximos introduces all the Theory brothers to Selbit, who finds it a very interesting project and ends up being part of it as the 4th official member of the organization. He begins to research about the island and its mysteries and unveils much of these secrets by creating even deeper theories. This attention to the mysteries of the island ends up drawing attention from Cucurucho himself, who appears to him in a very scary way in his office where he was researching about it. To make things even crazier, a code appears for Selbit very late at night when he was with Forever. All these situations pushed the Brazilians into this lore and they really wanted to know what was going on. Even after these scares, Selbit would not stop investigating things on the island and Forever suggests a plan to create an iron farm which is illegal on the server just to get Cucurucho's attention so that they could talk to him and extract more information. But they decide to take some time to decide if they would really put this plan into practice, afraid of a possible retaliation that could fall on Richarlison. In the meantime of this decision, Selbit presents the project of Ordo Theoritas, an organization that would replace the Theory brothers, having Selbit himself as its leader. Although there was a lot of distrust, they accept and really believe in the potential of the newcomer on the server and the organization is created. From here on out, the lore and the entire history of QSMP would progress at an unprecedented speed and this organization would gain even more members like Forever himself. The Theory brothers would now become Ordo Theoritas with the same objectives: discover, theorize, and catalog information about the island and its mysteries. Forever and Selbit decide to put their plan into action and as expected, Cucurucho appears and takes Selbit away. Everyone was left wondering what was going on and Selbit ends up being taken to a mysterious room where he is tortured by Cucurucho. Although he did this, Cucurucho calls him to a Federation room and allows him to ask one question since he wanted to know the mysteries of the island so much. So, Selbit looks at Cucurucho and asks if that island was real. After a few seconds that were longer than they really are, Cucurucho responds with a single and simple yes. After that, Selbit also ends up discovering the more direct existence of the Federation, and all those theories of the Theory Brothers turn out to be true, becoming the biggest evolution so far in the information they have. Before the arrival of the Brazilians, with the aim of discovering more information, Maximo builds an antenna in the middle of the island with the aim of getting some answer. For days nothing happened and no one appeared until now. While playing quietly and arriving at his house, he comes across a strange person who wore even stranger clothes. He was very direct with a distorted and strong voice, saying that he could not speak much and that Maximus should build what was in the instructions that this guy gave him. Later on, he builds this machine which he would call Sophia, an artificial intelligence that would work as a great tool to investigate the mysteries of the island by Ordo Theoritas. Later on, they would investigate this mysterious guy, theorizing that he could be a time traveler or not belong to the island in some way. The theories are many, but no one knows his real intentions. However, Sophia would change the course of Order's investigations, being a very useful tool. As expected, retaliation for all this success of the Order in investigations was very strong. Cucurucho did not leave the Brazilians alone, especially Selbit, who was already going crazy with that situation. He just wanted to play in peace without Cucurucho at his door or fear of losing Richarlison. But the main action of the Federation that is not known if it was directed at Selbit was Phelps' disappearance. After believing in Cucurucho and even seeming to like him, Phelps is captured by the Federation himself. This disappearance of Phelps would make Selbit enter even more into these issues and work even harder for Order. With his friend's disappearance, he had to do something, and he would start planning something that would be put into practice a few weeks later. The arrival of new participants in the series was announced. Now it would be the turn of the French Pierre, Antoine, Bagheera Jones, Itoils and Kemito. They arrived on the server by a plane that accidentally crashed on the island. With their arrival, the participants in the series had to take them out of the wreckage of the plane, and finally they would be in the series. Later on, all that presentation system happens again at the server's theater, where each of the series participants would present themselves. But the cutest moment of all was the presentation of a new egg, a French egg that would have the new French as its parents. Its name would be Pomme, apple in French. After that, the French settle in a region of the map which would be the French village on the server in the future. After that, the server went through difficult days. There were more and more attacks that happened through codes with the direct aim of killing the eggs. One of these attacks happened to Dapper, who on the server was the only egg with 2 lives after Pomme. Several attacks happened to eggs, but Dapper's was very strong. He was by far one of the most protected eggs on the server, and his death was something that shocked everyone. BadBoyHalo was really upset, even though if he were an egg he would still have 1 more life. So he calls several people from Ordo Theoritas to try to unravel and put an end once and for all to the attacks on the eggs. The organization's theory has always been that there could be some relationship between the codes and Luzo's computer. Therefore, BadBoy wanted to find some way to maybe destroy this computer, thus managing to end the codes. Arriving at the location, they find the house of the missing player Luzo and the mysterious computer. Forever, who was seeing the computer for the first time, realizes that inside the computer there were several items from the Create mod. These Create mod items are test items and allow players to test things in creative mode more easily. The computer was indestructible, but there could be ways to break it. One of these ways was to use some mob that exploded on the side, which was a point raised by Forever. The idea now was to spawn a wither next to the computer, which would lead to its destruction. Pierre tries to use a piston that even pulled a block, but who would be the true cause of destroying the computer would be Cucurucho himself. Seeing all that movement, he appears there and ends up destroying a nearby mine, which ends up destroying part of the computer. Forever, who had gone to get some items with the aim of creating a wither, comes across all that situation and realizes that there was one of these creative items on the floor. Quickly, Forever makes a great move, changing the course of this story even though he was prevented by administrators. Forever manages to get the item and then quickly puts it in an ender chest. Now several minutes of negotiation begin between members of Ordo Theoritas and Cucurucho, where Cucurucho wanted him to return the items and Forever wanted something in return. Selbit tries to convince why that didn't break server rules and Forever can have things with 1 more life for Richarlison or a chestplate with protection 10 among several things in exchange for the items. All this while the guy simply dances in Cucurucho's face. It was the first time on the server that they owed answers. The Federation was at a disadvantage and it would be a great opportunity for Ordo Theoritas. Cucurucho said he would think about Forever's requests and would give answers soon. At the end of the day, BadBoy, Selbit and Forever meet to decide what they could do with the advantage of the items. Selbit wanted the items to be distributed to the other members to get more things from the Federation, including answers, but Forever didn't want this, because it could put Ricarlison's life in danger, or be attacked in a more aggressive way by the Federation, as it happened to Selbit himself. But the server would stop for the next few days, with the death of an egg, Bobby. While Royer and Bobby were exploring a dungeon, Bobby ends up dying. Everyone on the server is shocked, but talking to Royer he said he was not too worried, since the server was very laggy and that his death would be re-evaluated. This generated a certain tranquility for everyone. It was as if he would come back at some point. All players would have to go in a danger and fight together for the Federation to give an answer. This was a moment where everyone was making joking, because they really thought they would have Bobby back. And even after this challenge together, Bobby could not come back. After weeks without the death of an egg on the server, Bobby would not come back anymore. The Federation allows Jaden and Royer to have 5 final minutes with Bobby. All players leave the Federation room, leaving the two alone with their son. On the other side, a feeling of indignation mixed with sadness took over the environment. Bobby's death was one of the most difficult to deal with since the beginning of the server, and one of the strongest moments of all was when Ricarlison's parents told him what had happened, and Rich's reaction was strong and made many people cry at that moment. For the next few days several tributes would be made to Bobby. After that, someone who would be very much on Royer's side would be Selbit. And the rest is history. After Bobby's death, Forever put as a personal goal, find some way to protect all the eggs, and not allow them to live in simple ways like Bobby. Ricarlison had a very advanced protection system. He was almost immortal because of that, and Forever wanted to give that to everyone on the island, that same amount of protection to everyone. Forever then create the Project Ninho, a place with several rooms, with advanced teleportation systems, with the goal not only to protect but inform everyone on the island ways to protect and care for their children. The project was seen with some concern by the Order, especially the Selbit, but the truth is that the project was a success, so much that until the recording of this video no egg died, and all eggs have their own advanced protection systems and rooms in the Nest project. The arc of betrayal was one of the biggest arcs that ever happened in the lore of the series, and it happened until recently, so it is very likely that you will understand more easily. Involving directly the Brazilians, the situation was as follows. Bobby had died, Project Nest was crawling, and the Order had a great power in their hands, which was the creative item. After Bobby's death, the Order tried everything to get Bobby back, but all negotiations were denied, and the players were waiting for answers from the Federation about the creative items, which had not yet been negotiated and were in Forever's ender chest. By the way, Forever had been for a few days in a big project, destroying an entire desert in front of the slum, an entire continent made of sand that he would destroy, and mark an event for the end of this project, where the sea would take over the place, and what was a big island would turn into a gigantic sea. The event was very amazing, marking the beginning of new things on the server, with a speech from Forever thanking for the series, and the presence of everyone. However, in that same live, minutes before, some players teased Selbit for a video of the Invite Sangalo that he had done many years ago. This makes him very crazy, and would be his prerogative to change his personality completely. After Forever's event, Selbit was completely different. This would be the big day, where the Order would try to talk to the Federation, in search of getting more information about what they would do with the creative item, but in the middle of the discussion with Cucurucho, Selbit changes sides completely, which makes Forever furious. After all, this was the chance they had, the only thing in months that put them one step ahead. Selbit had changed sides. The same guy who had revolutionized the Theory brothers now had decided to side with Cucurucho and the Federation. The Order loses the chance to ask for something or information in exchange for the items, and all the Ender chats on the server are blocked, and Selbit contests Forever's paternity, asking for a court to decide who his son should stay with, which is accepted by the Federation. After that, the conflicts between Selbit and Forever continue, and during the meeting Selbit says something very strong: "I will do everything to take Ricarlison away from you." That definitely did not look like Selbit as usual. He was colder, and had more and more an inclination to Federation. For days several impasses happened between them, and Selbit believed that Ricarlison could not have Forever as his father, and that somehow it did him harm. Quickly the whole server finds out, and all the members of the Order are betrayed in some way, and in an attempt to protect Ricarlison, Quackity captures him, and takes him away from all that confusion between his parents. But quickly Forever manages to find him, and decides that while this situation was not resolved, Ricarlison would stay with Pac and Mike since he does not trust Quackity. Selbit would now live in another place on the map, and would have his house built by Foolish for the next few weeks. Then Forever decides to live in Selbit's old house, which was also the Order's base. With so many internal intrigues, many thought it would be the end of Ordo Theoritas, but this was exactly the opposite. It would be the consolidation of this organization on the server that was almost secret, and now more people could know the project, with Forever taking over as the leader of the organization. But despite that, until the end of this orc, this was even beneficial for Order. It was not easy for Forever to deal with all this pressure that was falling on his shoulders, saying that even personally he was feeling bad because of how his character was following in the story, taking more and more responsibilities and having to deal with a lot of things. After these challenges, Selbit is accepted into the Federation, and his next step now was more direct. On his first day it was possible to see his quote, workplace. Cucurucho takes him to a place that looked like a meeting room, discovering a kind of conspiracy existing on the island. But despite that, he would not see anyone there, besides Cucurucho himself, and the workers, who are a kind of employees of Cucurucho, with a skin all white and with tools. They do not communicate, nor even interact with the players. Later on, Cucurucho gives some tasks to Selbit, simple things, and they even do them, but he does not stop observing that place, which was different from everything he had ever seen. Several rooms, and an environment much bigger than the normal rooms of the Federation, which were just a closed room, as he saw in the episode of the chainsaw. For about an hour, he was walking around that place, observing and fulfilling tasks, always being more daring and entering more and more restricted rooms, when at one point, Selbit finds a door with a password. He had a few seconds for an attempt, but putting the password, Phelps, in the book, the door opens and he quickly enters. Arriving in the room, he finds something bizarre, a kind of security camera, showing his friend Phelps frozen in a dark room. Quickly Selbit realizes that he would be discovered, and teleports quickly to the slum, finds Richarlison and hands him a book and says that he had to deliver that book to Forever as soon as possible. But Selbit is teleported as soon as he delivers the book to Riches, teleported back to the Federation room. There he meets Cucurucho, and then is banned from the server, and his live with more than 70,000 people watching ends. Before I explain to you what necessarily happened after Selbit disappeared and the whole plot that we will have involving Forever and the Order from here, you first need to understand what happened to Forever's character in this whole story. Understanding the development of this character is crucial to understand this part of the story. Well, after Selbit went crazy, this affected Forever a lot according to him. With a series of obligations, the whole order and the worries about Richarlison are everything that was happening with Selbit. As characters, they were very friends on the server, and listening to Selbit saying that he would do everything to take Richarlison away from him was something very strong for our character. On the same day that Selbit disappeared, Forever was live too, but he ends up finishing earlier because he even opens up with the public saying that that was even hurting him. All that story, everything that was happening with Selbit was making him very upset. So after Forever closes the live, Selbit is captured, and it happens all that story there where he was invited to work in the Federation, etc. And Selbit ends up banned from the server. But strangely, a few hours later Forever opens a live again, which makes everyone hopeful. While now he will try to save Selbit, he must already know everything that is happening. But Forever had no idea what was going on. In this live, Forever was very personal. He says he was feeling bad even personally with this whole arc of QSMP, that he was very overwhelmed with all this, that he had opened live again just to build, and nothing else. He really didn't want to get involved with anything lore for a while. Little did Forever know that at that moment the server was a complete chaos. Selbit, who at that moment hated, had just been kidnapped. BadBoyHalo, seeing all that situation, even tries to go after Cucurucho, or the base where Selbit disappeared, but of course he is stopped by him. Forever plays normally, but moments later he realizes that something was wrong with the server, until he finds Richarlison, who delivers the book to Forever and explains what he had seen. In Richarlison's view, he says that Cucurucho had taken Selbit to a place, and that after that he finds him kind of desperate, delivers the book and disappears in front of him. Forever, who was still digesting everything, finds all this very strange. Opening the book, he finds something like Crown of Thorns 3004, already understanding that it was a kind of riddle that Selbit had left. He tries to decipher it, but ends up not understanding very well what it could be. During this meantime, he observes that Foolish was walking at a very high speed on the server. What happened was that Foolish found BadBoyHalo talking to Cucurucho to find out more information, and while the two were talking, simply Foolish steals Cucurucho's cloud and flies away. Some moments later, BadBoy, Forever and Foolish meet. Together they try to understand the whole situation, and what could be the riddle left in the book. And in a conversation with BadBoy, Forever has an epiphany. He discovers that the Crown of Thorns was referring to the Christ Redeemer of the slum itself. Quickly everyone who was in the slum climbs as fast as possible on Christ. When they reach the top, Forever finds a security craft chest, and putting the password of 3004 that he had found in the book, He manages to open it. Inside had a series of letters, destined to several people on the island, where Selbit had affected in some way. Among them was a letter for Forever, where he explains the whole situation, that if he is reading the letter probably the plan went wrong. Selbit apologizes for everything, and explains to Forever that all that was a plan to get more information from the Federation. Something that Forever and the Order already suspected. At that moment Forever had a mix of feelings, a certain anger, sadness, and worry. This would indeed be the beginning of a new era of Order, which now passes its goal in rescuing Selbit and Phelps. The Order's response would be up to the task. With Forever in charge he creates new strategies. All that anguish he was feeling now seemed to be over. He was worried, but stronger than ever, and together with some members of the Order, they planned some rescue plans and the attack on the Federation. Now Ordo Theoritas had the help of more people, including Bagheera and other Frenchmen, and in one of these meetings, Pac says something that inspires Forever, seeing that they were nervous about all that. He reminds Forever of the position they were in and says that they only need to win once, because a single loss of the Federation would already be very advantageous for them. The first plan was to give an immediate response, show that what they did with Selbit would have consequences, and the second plan would be to try to enter the Federation's base, where Selbit was captured. Initially this would happen on Wednesday, but on Selbit and Phelps' Twitter, strange images were posted, referring to Thursday's day, and so the attack was postponed. So they decide to do the first plan, which would be a more direct response from the Order. Forever and other players blow up a kind of base that the Federation was building. In the meantime Quackity opens a live where he breaks all the rules of the server, and the reason is still a mystery, but it was funny to see all that situation. On the day of the attack everyone entered live normally, but Phelps and Selbit too, which made a lot of people euphoric even because it had been many days since they opened live. Selbit had been missing for a few days and Phelps for more than a month. The Order's plan was ready to go into practice, basically the old and new members of the Order together, Maximus, BadBoyHalo, Foolish, Bagheera Jones, Fit, all together to rescue Selbit and Phelps. Arriving at the place where Selbit disappeared, they faced several obstacles. One of these was a reinforced door that was traced minutes before the attack started. While the Order tried to enter that place of the Federation, Selbit and Phelps log on the server, in a completely strange room of the Federation. In this place, Selbit and Phelps were separated by walls, and they would have to solve a kind of riddle, using strategies of the game itself to try to get out of there. In the meantime while Selbit and Phelps tried to understand what was happening, all forms of entering that base of the Federation were barred almost instantly. All forms, items and kinds of bugs were barred by the admins. It was at that moment that Bagheera tells Forever that that could not necessarily be the place where they should go. Looking at the map they were not there, which means that they were in another place on the map, so several players spread across the map, to try to find some clue about the whereabouts of the two, and Forever tries to communicate in some way but gets no answer. Selbit even receives the message, but he could not answer until he got out of there and had access to a computer. Observing better the riddle of the room, Selbit and Phelps would have to work together to try to get out of there, and they understand that their goals at first should be to find a series of items in these two rooms, to thus create a codebreaker, an item from Security Craft that allows any player to open any door or chest from the mod. Quickly the two manage to work together and gather all the items needed to create the item, and after about 1 hour the two players manage to make these items and leave the room. The theories behind this are many. The most accepted is that Selbit was the person who had left the clues to get out of there, while other theories say that the Federation itself wanted this, but until now it remains a mystery. After leaving this place outside they arrive in a very strange place, nothing like the normal rooms of the Federation. But it does not take long and they send a distress signal to the Federation, since here they would have access to the computer, sending their coordinates, sending their position. The players, who mostly were in Sophia's room looking for some way to get geolocation information, receive the distress signal, and everyone goes quickly to these coordinates. In the meantime, Phelps and Selbit talk. Phelps says he does not remember anything that had happened, and Selbit even less, and Phelps felt he had spent a few hours, when in fact he had spent more than 1 month there. It does not take long for the Order to arrive at the coordinates sent. Arriving there they realize that they were in a booth with indestructible blocks. But as the Order spent the last hours studying how to enter protected places, then it was not very difficult for them to enter the room and rescue the two. It was the reunion between Selbit and Forever, who had a feeling of anger and happiness for having his friend back. Outside, they use teleporters that lead directly to the slum, and officially Selbit and Phelps were rescued. Now it would be the happiest and most peaceful moment of this arc, which would not end here. Phelps and Selbit, now in a safe place, meet Richarlison in a very cute moment. Amid all that celebration for the successful operation, Forever pulls Selbit aside and asks what had happened. Selbit answers saying everything I told you here, and quickly Forever interrupts him and asks if he had seen Quackity, who a few days before had disappeared with Cucurucho, which led Forever to think that he had been captured too. But Selbit did not know anything. They continue talking and Forever seems a little angry with Selbit, but at the same time seems to understand his whole plan. Selbit and Forever return to the people, who all go to the orders base, and inside the meeting room that now seemed small for so many members, Selbit gives a speech. Besides explaining his whole plan and apologizing for everything, Selbit and Phelps also thank for not having forgotten them. After that they arrange a party, which would happen on the roof of the Nest project. This was a moment of great tranquility. It was very beautiful to see all these players together, people speaking of several different languages, interacting and talking, enjoying the moment, and Royer and Selbit simply decide to get married. They basically say that after everything that happened, they should not waste any more time, marriage that would happen in the next few weeks, otherwise the event continues normally, if it were not for Forever putting the biggest hit of all to play, the song Pak Mike You, at the end of that day. Forever returns to talk with Phelps and Selbit. Forever seemed worried about the two. Selbit had part of his hair white, while Phelps had a strange wound on his left arm. Neither of them even knew what had happened for them to be like this, and Forever expresses his concerns as this, concerns that continued for a few more days. This would be the end of an arc in QSMP, a moment of peace, in which the players would have, marking the consolidation of the order, and the union between everyone on the island, people from different countries, cultures, and languages. Such tranquility also frightened no one from the Federation appeared during the operation, in either Selbit and Phelps nor the Order people, which was very strange. After about 2 weeks, Selbit and Royer get married, in a wedding that yielded many funny moments. But all this peace on the server would last little time, until a great announcement that would be made next, and the beginning of a new arc in this story. Amid suspicious days of peace, a lot changes on the map, new constructions are made, and projects are started. Events like the June party and the wedding are done, but all this tranquility would disappear. On QSMP's Twitter they announced that a big announcement would happen. Immediately people believed that it would be new players who would join the series, maybe Italians or Japanese. But no, the announcement would be of something much more specific. Quackity opens alive, and out of his character, explains how the new electoral system of the island Quesadilla would work. But before he makes this announcement we have a video where several information are shown to us. One of them is that during this electoral period, there would be no code attacks, and that the players do not have to worry about it. This is a very mysterious video, with an old appearance, but with the same characters that we know, including the duck, which even took a while since he did not appear on the island. This new electoral system would allow people to choose a kind of president for the island Quesadilla. All players received physically in their homes in various places of the world, a document, which contains rules, powers and duties, besides instructions that the players should use to apply. Among many things, the president would have the power to add or remove a mod, add a new player to the series and create new rules. In this document also had information about the electoral system. Each player would have 2 lives, and if he died during the campaign period he would be out of the elections. This electoral system will also have debates, and also its system of choice is divided between the residents of the island 50%, 35% of the community, that is me and you who are watching this video, and another 15% of gameplay. I read this whole extensive document in a video here on the channel, but if you want to read it personally, you can access the website qsmp.global. There is a copy of this document available in all languages spoken by the series. At the time I'm recording this video we're in the middle of this arc, and at some point the new president should be announced. The candidates are Bagheera Jones, Forever, Quackity, Selbit, Jeg, Mike, Foolish, Itoil, BadBoyHalo and Phelps. And well guys, this was the first part of the summary of QSMP. You can help me by giving a like on this video, or subscribing to the channel so you won't miss the second part of this video. This channel doesn't make me much money, I do this because I like it and I always wanted a content like this on YouTube but nobody did. So if you want to help become a member here on the channel, I would be very grateful. By the way, thank you for watching this video, a kiss, and see you next time.